What's up YouTube, Capital G here, talking about Link Monsters in this video and asking the question, in your personal opinion, what do you believe is going to be the first Link Monster to ultimately get banned in the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! And let me just say at the beginning of this video, this is definitely not an anti-Link video. This is definitely not some down with Master Rule 4, fight the power nonsense or anything like that. This is actually quite the opposite. It's really just kind of an open-ended, lighthearted discussion with the audience, which of course is you guys, about what monster you believe is ultimately going to get smacked upside the head with that ban hammer first. And I think this is a good time to do a discussion like this. In fact, I can only do this topic every so often, pretty much when we get a new mechanic, because it's not like I can really say, what do you think is going to be the first Pendulum or Exceed to be banned, because we have tons of those on the ban list. So Link Monsters and the mechanic have pretty much a clean slate, and that's why everybody can kind of have their opinion on it, and you got to back it up with opinions and facts and stuff like that. So I think this is a pretty good time to do it. There are 4 cards in particular that I want to talk about. The first should be pretty obvious, and that is Firewall Dragon. So this one should have been fairly obvious, especially if you've been playing the game over the last 6 months or so. Before the advent of the Link Vrains pack and the new 20 monsters that are going to be released in that thing, I think that Firewall pretty much had the biggest bullseye in the game on it when it came to Link monsters. And I think that the idea of Firewall Dragon being banned is probably crossed many of our minds. Before you look at that second effect not being a hard once per turn, that's pretty much where all the problems are caused. Just so many loops that are, in my opinion, very degenerate. So many FTK and OTKs. The FTKs obviously being much worse, because if you go first, your opponent might not have a chance to even play a card on the field. A lot of them have to do with just really obscure cards that tribute to do like effect damage, like Cannon Soldier and things like Amazoness Archer. We've seen Infernity kind of actually even top 8 regionals in the TCG, and Firewall Dragon has already caused collateral damage. I mean, it got Grand Soil banned in the TCG. You're never ever going to convince me that Grand Soil did not get banned because of Firewall Dragon. And Konami has even had to errata cards in the OCG just for the sake of Firewall Dragon. They did the same, or they did that with Grand Soil in the OCG rather than just outright banning it. I don't really agree with errataing cards unless you're trying to bring them back from unbanned. So I don't know, maybe there was a weird situation going there where you could say, well, Cap, it's kind of the same thing as if they would have banned it and unbanned it, so I guess that kind of makes sense. I think that Firewall Dragon being the face of the Vrains era, being Yosaku's ace monster, is the reason why I thought the card would never even be on the ban list at all. I thought that they would just keep hitting things around it, but then, in a little bit of a surprise, Konami did go after it in the OCG on their most recent ban list. They put the card to 1. They still, hit Grand Soil with its errata, so that tells you that they just wanted to take extra precautions. And I don't know, the fact that it went to 1 to me does not shut the door on Firewall ultimately getting banned, because the TCG, we've seen it in the past, guys. A lot of times what they think in the OCG and what they do on their ban list is not really the same as what we get over here. So would it actually surprise me if Konami outright banned Firewall Dragon? No, not really. Next up is Scoldy, which is a good card, but I don't think that it is a problem at all. But I have heard some people whispering that maybe this card would get hit in the future, and I don't know. I just don't see that unless there's going to be some new archetype that breaks the hell out of this card. Maybe there's going to be an archetype that when you put the monsters back into the deck, they trigger and summon themselves or something like that. Yeah, then this card would become obscenely broken, but that archetype would have to be created, and it'd have to be good and have to be able to go into Scoldy easily. Scoldy is one of those cards, in my opinion, that it's kind of like it's greater than the sum of its parts. I think that if you look at each individual effect, it's not all that powerful in a vacuum. I don't think any of them are broken. Even the 4 effect where you get to fix your hand, like, it's nice, but doesn't always mean you're going to win. And a lot of times going into Scoldy is not exactly the easiest thing. I don't even think this card is as good as Bolo Dragon, let alone Firewall Dragon. So I don't even think that it's in like the conversation for best Link 4 in the game. It can be incredibly powerful in certain decks like Mech Knights, because that ability to special summon a Mech Knight from your hand is actually more important than fixing your hand, because if you special summon one Mech Knight of its own effect, then you can't summon another copy of it of its own effect. But you know, being able to special summon from your hand and then getting 300 attack, like that damage adds up, and it's really good in that deck. The main thing about Skull Deed is the only time that I see people like abusing this card per se is really with like Grinder Golem, and I know that the draw 4 effect is not like a hard once per turn, but I'm gonna level with you guys. I've only seen somebody ever summon 2 Skull Deeds in like a turn. I'm talking about Link summoning 2 Skull Deeds in a turn. I've only seen it one time in my life out of all the duels that I've seen this card summon, so it's not like you can summon it back from the graveyard off a Soul Charge or off of anything silly like that and it gets its effect. So I don't know, the card is good, but I don't think it'll ever be ban worthy unless another archetype breaks it. Definitely not anything that we already have in the game. Crystron Needle Fiber. Now, to me, this is the card I believe is most likely to get banned. Needle Fiber, at first I looked at this card, and the reason that I thought it was all that powerful is because I was only thinking of it in the context of Crystron's. I was like, oh, this is neat, but this card is way too fucking generic. This card is every synchro player's wet dream. Like, what? I can just have any random monster in a tuner, so basically doing what my deck already does. Like, every synchro deck ever already summons a random monster and a tuner. That's how you synchro summon to begin with, so you're doing what your deck already naturally does, and it feels like there are so many ways to exploit that. Like, you make Gofu better, and like being able to summon things like Glow Up Bulb straight from your deck, and then on top of that they gave it that absurd effect where you get to go into like, you know, Formula Synchron during your opponent's turn and potentially like make Quasars. This card feels like it's way too overtuned. 1500 attack is actually quite strong for it to be generic. I mean, we're seeing some pretty shitty Cyberse monsters come out that are linked to that have like 1200 attack and that have like 1100 attack, and they're not even on the same planet as Crystron Needle Fiber. We're seeing this card be splashed into so many different decks that run minimal tuners. A lot of these tuners do not require your normal summon. There'll be things like, damn it, what's that fucking dragon that ABC run? I can never think of that damn dragon, the level 7 guy who cuts your life points in half and goes to the bottom of your deck. You guys know who I'm talking about, right? But a lot of decks will play that, and they'll play like Foolish Burial. Hell, I even, in like my Rockets I run in, I don't even run Dragon's Ravine. You just get to that card. If you dump it, if you have like a Dragon Shrine or like Foolish Burial, you go for Crystron Needle Fiber, you bring like Glow Bulb out of your deck, and then you can go into like Borolo Dragon incredibly easily. I'm starting to just see a lot of non-synchro decks use this card, and then what it does for synchro decks is absurd. If Crystron had just been like a Crystron Needle Fiber, just been, you know, a Crystron card plus a tuner, or a Crystron tuner plus a card, or if it just like summoned a Crystron tuner or anything just specifically to Crystrons, that would have made a lot more sense. It seems like Konami, if Konami was going to just make a card that just benefited synchro archetypes across the board, like that's fine. It just seems like this is what that card does, and it wasn't intentional. And even outside of just synchro summoning, it still kind of breaks other Link decks as well. Last card I want to talk about is Heavy Metaphors Electrum. This is another card that I feel like it's really a victim of it not being, or excuse me, it's a victim of it being generic. I don't understand why this card supports so many Pendulum archetypes that are not Metaphors. Why does this card support Pendulum Magicians? The shit that you can do with Astrograph Sorcerer, like one of them needs to go. I will say that right now. And I don't even think Astrograph Sorcerer can go to 1, because a lot of times you only need to resolve one of that guy to actually be in a winning position. The fact that you can send like Astrograph to the extra deck, and then you like blow up a card and you get that like add Astrograph to your hand and then special summon itself and then add that card back, it's ridiculous. Only 2 Pendulum monsters. This guy has 1800 attack, and it feels like these monsters, these Link Vrain monsters, for them not to actually, like, I understand the idea that Konami wanted them to support you know, like specific archetypes from the past, and maybe that's why they have high attack levels for Link 2s, but I don't understand why they're not generic, why they're so damn generic. I mean, this works in every Pendulum deck. People are gonna say I'm salty. Man, I've had like Magispector players like pop off with this card, and I'm just sitting there like, damn, you pretty much throw Astrograph and, you know, you throw a couple of Electromites in any Pendulum deck, and the deck basically becomes like broken. So yeah, you guys will see in the future. I believe that right this second, for Japanese places that are playing under the new format, which, I mean, starting this weekend, they'll all be playing new formats. From what I've seen, Pendulum Magicians seem to be the best deck slightly. So, yeah, it's obviously because of Electromite. Don't think Electromite wasn't broken that entire time that it was released. It was just, Tier 0 spirals. So, like, Tier 0 spirals are going to shit on everything. But, like, if you've actually seen what Pendulum Magicians can do, it's fucking disgusting. I played against a guy who made 3 of these cards in a turn. This card just annoys me. But what do you guys ultimately think is going to be that monster that earns its spot in history as the first Link monster to get banned? Or do you guys believe that it has not actually been released? Maybe it's something that I didn't talk about. Maybe you don't believe that there's any card in the TCG, in the TCG or OCG that has already been released that fits that bill. Whatever you guys think, leave it in the comment section below. Thank you guys for watching. As always, subscribe if you have not already. Turn on that notification bell for daily videos.